Welcome to the Tale Slate. I'm Ben Stacey. I'm here with Melissa D'Agostino and Matt Campagna, and we're talking about Game of Thrones, but specifically about Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 10, which aired, it's about 2 months ago now, isn't it?
Yep.
But the reason we're talking about this episode is it was, out of, I think, all the episodes I've ever seen of Game of Thrones, the most cinematic in terms of using the visuals to tell the story more than talky talk.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing. So I guess let's just go through the episode from beginning through to the end and discuss what happened, what worked really well, and yeah, so we'll start, basically the first 15 minutes is one big long, 10-15 minutes, one big long scene, essentially.
Yeah,
Yep.
basically just cutting back and forth between two places, watching this massive moment pay off. And we were expecting while we were watching it that this would be what the episode was about.
Yes.
And this was the only thing that was going to get wrapped up was this thing. But then, that was just the first 15 minutes. I couldn't believe how much happened so fast. And to speak to how cinematic it was, like, it felt like if they could go through these moments at this speed,
Yep.
they've got so much story to tell. This isn't a TV speed of story. This is cinema speed. We're getting through so much.
And I think it's paying off because we're so invested. We've seen these characters for so long now, and they've really shown us the relationships. They've done it so well that they can move that quickly. They can tell us something with one shot, and and it resonates, which is huge.
And that's one thing I really liked. There was almost no dialogue for the first 10 minutes or so, but you knew what was going on. But it was a slow build, you know. And one thing I found interesting, and this is similar to back when we first got the Hound back, is that they establish a style for the show. So you have expectations of the grammar of the way the show is going. That episode with the Hound, when he came back, they broke that by going to a cold open, creating this scene where it was really idyllic, and you think something's wrong here because this is too nice.
Yeah.
Similar here, but in a different way. The no talking, the music basically building and taking you through it. It felt different, and you knew something was wrong.
Yeah,
Yes.
this has been a season where breaking the conventions of the show is the new convention. And it's neat to see, like, we didn't lose nearly enough characters this season for the amount of beautiful things that we got. So many satisfying things without losing important characters.
But the deaths that we did get were so satisfying and strange, and like one of the most arresting moments of that episode is just Tommen out of that.
Yeah.
Okay, we can pick up on that. I know we can keep going. We'll keep going. I don't need to cut to me.
Tommen dropping out of that.
Tommen just out of that window was just so amazing.
And what a beautiful frame, talking about the cinematography and the cinematic vibe. To be able to just have a moment where all he hears is, "I'm sorry, sir." And then he just takes a moment out the window. And you're like, oh, it's
and he
just
leaves.
being given.
He leaves the frame, and you're like, what's going to happen?
And they leave it lingering on the window for just that bit longer, so that you're going, what's going on? Like, it felt uncomfortable.
That ain't, that ain't TV. That's how you make a movie.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful how much of that we got in this episode. And in fact, the fact that the 10th episode of any season usually is like the take a breath episode. The 9th episode of every season is always the big crazy battles, crazy stuff happens. And then episode 10 is like, take a breather, we're going to figure some stuff out, we're going to set up the next season. But this time around, this season, we got episode 10 of season 6 as a monster. It was just a huge episode, and I wasn't ready for that, and it bowled me over. It was so good.
Going back to just before Tommen killed himself, which was amazingly well done, with the wildfire, it was a slow build. As an audience, you realize what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But some people might look at that as a negative. Oh, I knew what was going to happen. No, you're supposed to know what's going to happen. It's the build towards that.
Yes.
Plus, we know that we have the High Sparrow and Marjorie's in the sept with them. And they did such a good job of, you're thinking, okay, well, she's going to get away. Oh, no, they're holding her back. Oh, but she still's going to get away. Even up to the point when the wildfire goes and it comes, they do that cut to them before it hits. You see High Sparrow, you see Marjorie off to the side, you see it come up, and your brain's going, Maybe it's just blowing up to him.
Yeah,
And then
this
it goes
can't
out and all
happen.
that. Did that get them? Then the whole freaking
Yep.
sept blows up. And
Yeah.
half the freaking city. And like,
Oh, it got her.
Yeah. And the shots and the editing of that sequence was so important and so well, like just well edited, well timed. It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Every cut at exactly the right moment to make that
Also,
fit.
the children involved in that whole sequence
Yeah.
was
Mortifying.
and amazing.
Yeah.
It's like the depravity of
oh,
it.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Killing off, what's his name?
Yeah, just stabbing adults
Yeah.
left, right, and
Yeah.
center. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Lansel, is that his name? I was forgetting
well,
his
Lancel,
name.
but also the,
Lancel
uh,
and so did the Maester.
The
Maester.
Maester, that awful
whole-
Maester, yes.
Yeah. Such a good stabbing.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that.
So then that wraps up with Tom and killing himself, and you're like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And then there's more stuff coming.
Yeah.
It was huge.
So we get a little bit of a breather after that, which is Jaime Lannister at Walder Frey's, and they're talking, and there's this cool scene where they're talking about, what did you do, and well, why do we need you, kind of thing to Walder and stuff. Anyway, but they introduce this girl.
Yeah, the wench.
You
Yeah.
don't think much
Just
of her,
a bar
but
wench.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Then we'll skip ahead a little bit because come back to that scene, and you have that scene where this girl's come in, and Walder Frey's asking where his kids are.
Well, they're here, sir.
Yeah. Now it's interesting because that scene was so well written and so well shot because they kept giving you hints, and if you watch people watching it, people get it at different points.
Oh, yeah.
Some people got it early.
Yep.
Some people it took a little while, and some people got it right at the very end, and
Yeah.
it was amazing. But disgusting too when you start
Yes.
to realize, and you see him realize
Yep.
he ate his
Yep.
sons in the pie.
And so fitting. It's
Yeah.
like
It was.
so
that was a very
fitting.
satisfying death. And then,
Yes.
of course,
Such
it's Arya,
satisfaction.
and she gets him. That was really good.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there are people who are talking about, at least fans of the books, who are saying, "Oh, we never got to see Lady Stoneheart, so
That's-
disappointing."
that's their
But you
version,
get to
isn't
see Sansa, and you get to see Arya, both turning into a kind of what Lady Stoneheart accomplished.
Yes.
And so, without having read the book that Martin's still writing,
Yeah.
it's pretty safe to say that we're getting exactly what we need to be able to keep that story moving forward, and we don't need a zombie Catelyn to make that happen.
And the cool thing is they've got these characters that they're doing things which we find satisfying, but there's also part of you going, it's a little disturbing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. They're
Both with Arya and then with Sansa, when
Sansa.
she walks away from letting the hounds eat
Yeah.
Ramsay. She's got that smile and like, oh, it's
Well,
something
and
not right.
I like that about the female characters on the show
Yeah.
is that they're powerful and they're problematic, and that's fantastic because usually you see women either being very virtuous and noble, or you see them being she devils and femme fatales. But here we're seeing complicated women in charge, but also making mistakes and making choices that we don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
But it's really satisfying.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
almost like they're being written with the complexity of a male character.
Almost, yeah. Imagine.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a novel idea.
Speaking of one of the coolest female characters in it, we get some good scenes with Daenerys.
Yeah, Danny, poor Dario Naharis.
Oh, yeah.
Aw.
But who cares?
Mikkel,
chump.
that actor, Mikkel Huisman, I feel like that poor actor plays the same guy in every project.
Yeah.
He's just like the beefcake, wild guy that ends up with the girl for a tiny bit and then is
he's gone.
discarded. Yeah.
But the big scene here, and this has to do with, it'd be tough to do it. You couldn't do it in one episode. Like if this was the first episode of a season, it wouldn't have any impact. It's the fact that they built up these characters over all this time. The payoffs, the emotional payoffs, are huge. When she makes Tyrion the hand of the queen.
Yeah.
Previous to that, he's been talking about how he finally has something to believe in.
Yeah.
And it's like you got Tyrion at that. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, this is
And
really
this is
emotional.
a man who
Yeah.
has worn this pin before, and it didn't go well for him. And so to
Because he was
have
being
him,
used by,
yeah, he
by
was a
Tyrion,
patsy,
by Tywin.
and he was a patsy, but he delivered he delivered the salvation of King's Landing, and he was still the fall guy.
Yeah.
And so here he is in the same potential situation, setting himself up for the same fall that scarred him physically and emotionally. But with Dany, he takes it and he's willing to take it because he believes in her, because he has something to believe in now. And it's just a huge, like you said, tears in your eyes, emotionally beautiful
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
I also loved how Yara and Daenerys had that great scene where the Iron Islands.
Our fathers are monsters.
Our fathers are monsters. I loved that. And then Olenna goes to Dorne. Like there were so many.
Yeah.
Speaking of women again, there were just so many powerful women making alliances, being in charge, moving things. And again, sometimes you agree with them, and sometimes you don't. But it's fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Little scene, but I think it's important. The Sam arriving at the library.
Talk about a beautiful emotional payoff moment.
Yeah, I mean, people compared to the Belle in the libraries.
Yeah,
in
right,
Beauty and the
it's
Beast.
so good.
It was kind of like that.
And I love the.
He's a gentle lamb.
I love the gyroscopic
Yes, that was awesome,
chandeliers
wasn't it?
hanging out in there, because you're like, now is this something the visual effects guys did because it's cool, or is this a big important thing that we're
Who
looking
knows?
at?
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, because to me that opening sequence always makes me feel like the fire at the center of it is the Lord of Light. Like I feel like, because all the other gods arguably don't exist, but the Lord of Light is there. The Lord of Light has done some stuff.
That's true, yeah.
He's brought
Yes.
people back to life.
Yeah.
The other ones maybe are trees with old men under them. It's hard to say for sure. But the Lord of Light's a thing. And so the fact that we are now seeing in-universe evidence of the opening sequence
Yeah.
having some kind of parallel. That was huge in a production design. Like that
Yeah.
could have been a massive moment that we just saw, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll find out soon.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, hopefully it is. It's not just somebody, like I said, throwing it in because, that'd be cool if it was,
Yeah.
Right.
Then we have the scene where it's the flashback to Ned and
yeah.
baby John. And this only works because of the way we understand film grammar now. Like, they cut from the baby to John.
Yep.
Who says that means anything, but it does.
But we know it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was a pretty good emotional scene, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also love the fact that she tells Ned the name of the baby, and it's a Targaryen name that she whispers, which indicates
don't really hear.
We don't really hear, but if you do some investigating, and I love that because it tells us that it wasn't a rape, that was a love story. Like
Yeah,
there's all those
exactly.
those rumors
Yeah.
and the feeling that perhaps there's all the talk that Rhaegar raped her, but actually, it's a beautiful tiny moment, and I love that about the show is the tiny moments that are so full and tell so much story.
Yeah, and again, it's the shorthand, and
Yeah.
just to be able to have seen Robb Stark called the King in the North.
Oh, yes,
And
they go back
then
to that, yeah.
to do that again, if it hadn't been 3 seasons since that happened, since we saw what looked like the vindication of Ned Stark get beheaded again, it wouldn't mean what it meant, but it meant a lot. When Marmont stood up and said,
Yes.
there was only one king in the North, and that king is a Stark. And it's just like, oh, this little girl is the best. And you can really see where Jorah's family is disappointed in him being a bit of a dink compared to what Mormonts are supposed to be.
He's
But
I just
not.
want to
He's good.
stand up
He's
for
good. I
Jorah.
like Jorah
I
more.
love
Yeah.
Jorah.
He's come a long way since he was like exiled for slaving.
Yes, he's
because
learned. He's grown.
Yeah, he has. He
Yes.
has.
And
His
that-
father would have been proud.
Just in terms of the show in general, I gotta say this show is great for taking characters that you think are unredeemable and redeeming them, or vice versa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, look at Jamie.
Jamie Lannister's huge.
You
Yeah.
hated him the first season and a half. Then you kind of go, okay, he's not
Wait a
so bad.
minute.
And now he's a heroic character. And I think you should maybe take some of this, apply it to real life. We tend to view people, whether it's a criminal or whatever, as, oh, they're just a criminal. Not necessarily forever. Your past doesn't necessarily dictate what your future's going to be.
Yeah.
And this show is great at pointing that out.
Yeah, and
Yes.
it's also great at showing you one side of a character and then making you dismiss any other possible side of that character until they show it to you and you're like, oh, that,
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that's very much the thing about Jamie. Like, Jamie and Cersei are in love and they see something beautiful in one another. And as an audience member, you just think, oh, they're these two horrible incestuous brothers and sisters. Well, how gross is that? And then when you realize what a beautiful soul Jamie has during seasons 2 and 3,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's why Cersei thinks this guy's not just, a good-looking beefcake. There's something
So,
special.
speaking of Cersei, we have that scene where
Yeah.
she takes the throne. Again, very, very cinematically done. Very little dialogue. All in looks, all
Yeah.
in the tone of the music.
Yep.
All in where she's sitting.
And,
Yes. And
the-
Jamie looking
the
at
look
her.
from Jamie to her. I mean, what do you think that says? He's not happy.
Well, I think there are a lot of brothers and sisters who are not happy with the kings and queens that they happen to now be related to that they weren't at the beginning of this episode. I think,
true,
Right,
yeah.
yes.
I think there's a fair bit of that, and I think that's going to lead to some really neat stories in season 7. I think we're going to see a lot of Stark on Stark. We're going to see a lot of Lannister versus Lannister.
Yes.
So then we have our final shots. The
Glorious.
fleet coming. And again, there's no dialogue there. It's all just
Nope.
visual, spectacular visuals, but it tells you so much. I mean, they've got everything. You look at the ships, you see
There are Tyrell ships.
Exactly.
Yep.
There are
Dorne
Ships from
Dorne
Dorne,
ships,
yeah. Yeah.
the Iron Islands.
Iron
Iron
Islands.
Islands, and of
Yeah.
course from Slavers Bay, you've got all those ships as
Well,
well.
Targaryen ships.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, all bearing these Targaryen
Yeah.
sigils like this. It was huge.
Yeah.
So,
And it's
yeah.
all women. That's the great thing. There
Oh,
are
it
women
is,
in
yeah.
so many
Yep.
places of power now.
It's true.
That they weren't. That at the beginning of this show, when everyone was like, "Oh, it's the rapey booby show."
Well, it was,
and
yes.
because it
But
was.
you know
Yeah.
what? I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because it's
That's where it's
if
come
it was
from.
different.
I get it.
you
Yeah,
would
yeah,
have built up
yeah.
to this too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where
It
it's-
had to go on that journey, and now we're
Yeah.
at this new place that is so exciting.
But
and-
that's what's so cool. As an audience, it's like life. I said, like you tend to judge it where you are right now.
Yeah,
You keep going, and things change.
absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But this was a beautiful ending to a beautiful season that gave
Yeah.
us so much of what we wanted,
Yep.
and this episode kept that pattern going.
Yep. Goodbye, Ramsay Bolton.
So there we go. The best, my favorite of the whole series so far.